Hello, welcome to the new edition of the Scale Model Club. In this edition we will be undercoating and base coating PT109. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get it on. Nice. Here we go then, PT109. As you can see, it's a bit further forward than when we left off in the last video. I have glued together the interiors, I've glued together the top of the boat, the roof, that's the roof of the cockpit. I've done the guns and the torpedoes, but they're to one side. So everything's ready for a good paint. The first job is to paint the interior. Now, I've seen a couple of videos on the interiors of PT boats, and they all seem to have white walls, and then grey floors and black scenery. That's some airbrush thinner. Got that in the tub, just in case you need to clean a brush or the airbrush out if you get a bit of a clog. And so these are the pegs I was talking to you about. So it holds it upright for you, saves you using the stand if you've only got a couple of bits to do. So let's get on with the airbrush. Going to be using some Vallejo Insignia White, I think it is. It's a nice thing to paint, nice colour to paint. White's always a bit of a bugger because it's always a bit tough because it's not got many pigments in it, so you have to sort of do a couple of thin coats on it. But we'll be painting all the walls and all the insides of the boat while it's on the desk. So I've got my paper down. It's Insignia White. Always good idea to do this. Put a little bit of paper down because it gives you something just to try the airbrush on, because you never know. You could put all the stuff in the airbrush, spray it, and it all shoots out the top. And there we go. A few coats on the walls. Get it nice and white. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you push that subscribe button and the notifications. Hope everybody's enjoying the work so far. Got to apologise for the last video. I think it was a bit long. I think we're going to give. I think I'm going to have a few changes around, few change rounds. Don't think we need to know any more about gluing plastics together. So I might do like a quick sort of build video and then the paint video, rather than the extremely long one that I did. Because once you've seen two bits of plastic glued together, you've seen two bits of plastic glued together. Sorry, this is all off camera. It's a new camera. It's a new way of filming. I thought it'd be better if it was straight down so you can see it all. Obviously, I've got another set of things to look out for and get right. Now, I've not quite followed the instructions. None of the glass has been, or the clear parts have been fitted to the model yet. I will fit them afterwards. I can get to all of them. So, and this is the interior walls of the living quarters. The airbrush you'll be using is a Harder and Steenbeck Ultra medium type of airbrush, not that expensive, very good airbrush, I like it a lot. I'm using it on about 1.2 psi, or 1 bar is it? I can't remember, I think it's 1.2 psi, and it's got a 0.2 needle in it, so everything seems to flow out lovely. That is a Vallejo Model Air paint.
1 hour later.
So that takes that long to dry. Also, you don't have to thin it down, straight on top of the airbrush. Bosh. And then the next thing we've got is I've painted the seats. I think I painted the seats bits and pieces so that they've got black, so they look like there's a cushion on them. And I've also got out some interior wash, which is a brown type of wash, just to cover the inside of the interior. Once you've covered the inside of the interior, you can just wipe it clean with a cocktail stick. Gives it a nice little weathered look. This is a pin wash. This is the Dark Knight pin wash. So I'm just going to go around a few little bits in the inside the boat just to highlight a few areas. Just basically to highlight the floors round the radio bits and just makes them stand out a little. Run a little bit of wash around the inside of the cockpit. Not spending loads of time on it because you don't see much of it. I spent more time on the bit that's that the roof removes from, because I'm not going to glue the roof down, so you can actually take it off and have a look inside. So give it a wipe it out with the combat, gives it sort of a worn and weathered look, or like dirty seamen have got their fingers all over the walls. I'll glue that on the bottom because now that's done, that can be glued onto the main hull. It's a nice kit, it's a very nice kit, all fits together very nicely, not much flash. Everything seems to fit where you want it to fit. Had to hold that one for a little bit because there was a bit of a bow in the deck, but it should sort itself out while it's in there. So I'll grab my cotton bud, give it another wipe. Now this I'm doing what I'm doing is I'm wiping most of it off and leaving it in any recesses because it doesn't have any, you don't have to make it look like it's moving, you just have to make sure like it's been grubby. Someone's cleaned it because they are well kept, very clean, but some of the little grubby bits that stayed in the corners. Now on the front there is some radio boxes. I've got a cocktail stick there, and I've got a little bit of white paint on the plate. And I've just dipped the end of the cocktail stick in and just put a couple of little buttons on the front to make it look like a because it is the radio room, so it just makes it look like it's got a couple of buttons for the radio operator to use. And you can't really see it. Just to add a little bit more realism to it. So there's the front. I'm not going to glue the front on either. And that's the roof of the obviously the living quarters. So that there is exactly how I'm going to paint it. I just need to find some blue tack to stick down the front and stick down the roof. So here we are. Roof stuck down with a bit of blue tack, the middle bit stuck down with the blue tack. We're all ready for the first coat, which is going to be the undercoat, which is a black. Using black so that we get a nice little shadow coat. It goes in all the darker areas. So we'll make sure we go along all the little nooks and crannies, all the creases and all the dark areas of the boat with that first. So along the edges, in any gaps, around inside the gun areas. Anything that's going to have a blackish tone to it when you get the final coat on. going to try some tonal painting with this. So this is basically the same sort of thing as I do with the tank. So paint the whole thing in a black, then go over the highlight the upper areas with a white colour before we put the top coat on. Again, the airbrush is set up exactly the same, 0.2 needle, 1.2 psi in the airbrush. This one was quite awkward because my airbrush was clogged up when I went to start using it. So first time I pulled the trigger, it went and chucked it all out the top of the airbrush. So took the airbrush to pieces, cleaned it all up, started again, and here we go. Give the depth charges a go. Thanks very much for all the comments I've had in any of the recent videos. Thanks very much for all watching them. I do read all the comments, don't always answer them. It's not my fault, it's because I'm not very good at social media. And mostly because I spend most of my life with a paintbrush in my hand. So you can see there where it's not coming out of the airbrush as nicely as I'd like it. So we're going to have a bit of a clean. Take the bag off, dip out the paint, pull the needle out, give the needle a good wipe and give the body a good clean with some airbrush thinner, or cleaner I think I was using. Make sure you get all the dried bits out, all the nasty bits of paint. This doesn't normally happen with MIG paints. It's not a paint problem, it's an operator problem where I'm been too lazy to clean it out. Or it's one of the big things about airbrush. You've got to keep the airbrush clean, got to keep everything clean, the nozzles, the holes, the needles, everything. But basically speaking, if you pull the trigger and it bubbles, it means your air isn't going right out the end, so there is a blockage somewhere. Shame I did it all off camera really. Oh, there we go, I thought about it. There's my little toothbrush, pipe cleaner. Dip it in some cleaner and then give it a good clean. Now then, the needle. When you want to clean the needle, you need to go up the needle, not down it. It's not for any reason as to it's important because you know paint goes the wrong way or anything. It's because you are more than likely going to stab your finger with the needle, which is very sharp. And it's very important that that needle stays very sharp at the ends. It doesn't need being stuck in your finger. So there you go, look at that. Everything put back together, everything clean, bosh, sprays on lovely. This is a NATO Black by Tamiya. I like this because of it's got like a green hue to the paint. It's a nice black, and it's not really dark. It's just like not quite as dark as matte black. It is a little awkward doing this, but sometimes you just have to make sure that you paint all the nooks and crannies, creases, holes, doors, windows. Do that all first before you put one big coat over the top. Otherwise you're going to end up with runs and pieces in funny places. Like I said, all this is a shadow coat. So we're nearly done with the shadow coat. Looks like I've just got the cockpit and the roof to do. There is another piece I've got on a cocktail stick somewhere, I can't, and it's actually there's a little wall that goes in between the crew quarters and the cockpit. But obviously I've got a few more bits to glue in the cockpit which isn't this grey colour, so I'm going to leave that wall out. But the rest of this is grey. A little bit more paint. Make sure we get everything. It's quite a big model. Never realised how big it was till you get it out. And then you realise it's 172, and most ships and boats are like, you know, 1 to 600. So I need to find some crewmen to put on it. Need some seamen. Need seamen all over the boat. Okay, so it's nearly there. All covered in black. All bases covered. We're just gonna have to let that dry before we put the next coat on. Well, let that dry for about
1 hour later.
Right, so this is now the next coat, and this is insignia white again, like I used for the interior. And what I'm going to use this for is all the flat areas on the vehicle or boat. So it'll be all over the deck, the roofs, anything that's flat and stands out, leaving the black in all the nooks and crannies. You see what I mean? It's called black and white coat. So you can't really see it, but that's going along the walls, all the flat pieces, so I'll go all around the outside, but only in the middle, so the black goes round the edges, creating sort of panel lines, as it were. But as it's not panels, you see what I mean? So you just want to paint it in the middle, leaving the edges black. Highlighting is what it is. Highlighting it so that when you put the last colour on, it stands out more. So here we go, that's the finished model. You can see where all the black is what is going to look darker. So when you paint the grey on, the darker bits will show a darker grey than the white bits. Also over the top of that, when we start the next video, I'll make that a bit clearer with different colours, different shades of grey. So that's the highlighting nearly done. All we need to do now is wait for another
1 hour later.
And then we can start putting the top coat on, which is a grey colour from MIG Ammo. It is actually 228 or 227, 228, which is just like a light sea grey. Or sorry, a dark sea grey. So I'm going to put the darker colour on. And this is just misted over the top, so you should still be left with the darker areas. Not sure if it's going to come out on the video so well. But then it gives everything a tone, and it gives all the pieces that are flat a little bit of texture, a little bit, not a texture, a little bit of a highlight. So you can see there, just fools the eye into thinking there's more of a gradient there. And if you've liked this video of me painting or getting as far as the base coat on PT109, please like and subscribe, and turn up on the next video where I shall do some more colour modulation, the clear coat and some washing. That should be interesting. I'll see you then. Really great.